Hi guys, welcome back. Next class. Excited about this one. I do use Photoshop a lot, but mostly just for photo editing. So I'm excited for this class, and I'm also excited to be joined by Tori, who is the owner of Monogram Moments. So hi, Tori.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here. And so I guess with that, I'm just gonna turn it over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, guys, can y'all see my screen right now? Perfect. Okay, so I use Photoshop. I know there's a bunch of different options out there like CorelDRAW, Affinity. I use Photoshop because I also use Illustrator. I use their Premiere Pro, which is their video editing software. So it just makes sense for me to use the whole suite. Now, I will say if you like Photoshop, which you can kind of decide after today, you can go to their website and you can get this right here if you're just going to be using Photoshop. It's only $10 a month, which I don't think is bad at all. I do prefer not to have subscription based, but that's what everything's going to these days. So $10 isn't bad, I don't think. Okay, so once you get that downloaded and everything, we're just going to go ahead and start because I might talk slow and run out of time quick. So your Photoshop might not necessarily look like this when you open it. So what I'm going to do is reset my workspace to make it look like what you would see as soon as you logged into Photoshop for the first time. And we're going to make Photoshop set up to work for you because there's so many gizmos and gadgets and tools that you might not even use. So make the workspace work for you. That way it's less confusing. You can work better. You're more efficient. So I'm just going to walk you through how to do that. All right. So I don't use color much. I draw on my iPad and then I send it as a Photoshop file to Photoshop. So I don't use color. So anything up here that you don't use, you can just right click and select close tab group. And that got rid of all of that. And then I work with my layers a ton, which I mean, that's kind of what the point of Photoshop is layers. So I like this to be large. So you can drag, I don't know if you can see that little tiny arrow, but it's telling me I can pull it up or down. So I can drag that all the way up here. And I also like to see what's on my layers. Sometimes I'll have little tiny icons and I don't want it to get nose to nose with my screen. So you can then right click, make sure you're on the actual layer, not over here, but on this over here. You'll right click and you can select the different size thumbnail. So I'm already on the large. This is small, so really can't see anything there. Medium, large. So this is how I like it. And I honestly prefer not to have this up here either. I want this just to be my layer. So what I did a second ago, I just clicked these 3 lines right here and hit close. And to close it all, you can just hit that close. Well, of course, there we go. Close tab group, and it gets rid of everything. And I don't need channels. I'm not really sure what that is. Close tab group. Oh, then I got rid of my layers. That's okay. I'll add them back. So to add things over to the side, we're going to go to Window, and everything that you can add is right here. So I want my layers back, so I'm going to hit Layers. Okay, there's that. A lot of times you'll accidentally click on things and things will disappear. So this is where you'll go to get them back. History is already there. That's what this is. And I'll be going over these later. I'm just showing you right now how to get your workspace set up. I like using paragraph because that's all of our texting and alignment and our character, like changing the text and the size. And sometimes I'll use swatches, which is just like your color picker if you want to use just a certain color swatch or palette. And it put it right here, and I don't want it right here because I want this to be all layers. So you can grab this and you can drop it. You see how it's kind of blue right there? And just drop it right there. And then all of this popped up that I don't want, so I'm gonna hit close tab group. And that's really about it. You can go through and add whatever else is helpful for you and what you use Photoshop for, but this is all I use it for. So we are good here. And I have a whole list of what I want to go over. So if I'm looking down and I'm quiet for a second, I'm just making sure I'm following along because there's so much in Photoshop and I don't want to miss it all. So I think we are good with that. Okay, so first I want to explain what these are over here real quick. So I'm going to open a new folder or a new canvas, I guess you could say. I've got a 10 by 10 ready to go. So I'm just going to select create and I'll go over that menu in just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to add some text. I'll just type out my name. So right here, you can play around with your text up here, or you can come over here where I was a second ago, and you can make it bigger this way. Or you can select the move tool. And whenever you use the move tool, be sure you have this auto select on because it just makes everything way easier. And then you can size it up this way. Okay, so here's my name. Now say, just one more thing. Size this down back now. Okay, see how large this gap is? And this depends on different fonts. Sometimes the gap will be smaller and you want it larger. Well, you can fix this. So you could have written them in two different text boxes and moved them that way. Or you can use this character menu over here. So what I'm going to do is select everything and then just play around with these. That's always what I suggest in Photoshop. Just play around and see what happens. So this right here is going to allow me to decrease that space between Tori and monogram. And then let's say I wanted Tori to be more spaced out so that it took up the same amount of space across the screen as monogram. I would select my name and then you'll go, I think it's this one, the VA, and you can just pull out those letters. Now I'm not sure why the R is not going. Different fonts are going to do different things. It's probably because they're connected because the R is the top of the I. So if I want to change that R, if fonts are an OTF, I cannot remember what it stands for, but it means a font has different options for different letters. So this R has, let's see, 2 different options for me to use. So I can change it. And there we go. And now you can see, since it's not the dot of the I anymore, it's spaced out like the rest of the letters are. So I just highlighted that one letter. Sorry guys, it's crazy. And then it gives you all these options down here, and then you can just select whatever option. So that is, let's see, what is this one called? That is the character. And again, we got these when we went to menu and added character. And then, so your paragraph, you've got your alignment. So I think most people know how these work. So that centers my paragraph so that it's in the center, and you can do right justified. And that's really about it. So this tool right here is the history. So I think someone asked this in the group. You can go up here to edit and hit undo, 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 undo 50 million times until you're trying to get back to where you were 50 steps before, or you can use this history option. Now, I don't have a ton because I haven't done a lot on this canvas, but say I wanted to go back to where I first typed out just Tori, instead of, hitting undo, 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 I can just go back up here. And then I can be like, oh, actually, this is the one I wanted. Yeah, this one. So that's an easy way to go back 10 or so steps. Now, it doesn't hold all of your steps. I'm not sure what the limit is, but if you've done 100 different things, it's not going to show you all 100 of those options, which is unfortunate. But then you could file, save as, and just keep saving different progresses as you go. Okay, so that is that. Are there any questions so far dealing with any of this stuff? All right, we'll just trucking right along. Okay, so next.
Oh, I'm sorry. I removed myself from the stream. No questions yet, but OTF, open type font.
Open type, thank you. And then TTF is true type, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Cool, thank you. All right, so next we're going to explain the tools over on the left side. So over here, I already mentioned what this is. This is your move tool. It's pretty self-explanatory. Make sure that you have, oh, this is the option I wanted. The show transform controls. If it's not on, it doesn't give you the option to size this up and down. So be sure that this is checked. And now I can move this up and down very easily. And you always have to check this check mark when you're happy with it. Kind of annoying, but if it's not working, like you're not able to click on anything else, it's probably because you haven't clicked that check mark. Okay, so this guy, square marquee tool, if you kind of hold your mouse and click on it, you'll get this drop down and you can use the elliptical marquee tool. I use most of these two most of the time. And what it allows you to do is just kind of break things apart. Now this isn't, let me pull in. Okay, so say I needed more room right here in this space, I could take my square marquee tool and drag it over the part that I want to move. And I can go up to the move tool and then, okay, so it did that because this image is not rasterized. So I'm not entirely sure what the textbook definition of that means, but you have to rasterize it in order to use it fully in Photoshop. And you know that an image isn't rasterized, it makes it a smart image, I think, when you have this little icon over your layer. So you just right click and you'll hit rasterize layer and that icon goes away and you're now good to go. So if I do what I was trying to do a second ago, so I got my square marquee tool, I'm dragging over this. Now I can select my move tool. Now I can move just that top part that I selected. So I can make it smaller or, I don't know, whatever you want to do, you can just use that option. And then to get rid of this, you hit, if you have a Mac, it's going to be Command D. If you have a PC, it's Control D, and it just gets rid of that select. So now it is moved to what I just selected it to. Okay, so that is that tool. Your lasso tool works the same way, except it gives you free reign to kind of draw with your mouse. So if this was a more complicated shape and I couldn't use just a rectangle or a circle, I could draw around the shape. And then your magic wand allows you to select, different colors. Then you've got your crop tool, which everybody pretty much knows. Your eyedropper tool is very handy, and you can use this in a lot of different areas, but it allows you to select a certain color. So say I wanted to add my name here, larger. Right, I'm not trying to make this perfect. I just want to do this quickly so I can get to everything. So I know that doesn't look great and I would not print this, but I just want to show you the gist. So if I got my eyedropper tool and I wanted Tori to be this orange color, you just would select it. And now you can see right here that my orange color is selected. Really, this is kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but I would have actually gone to character, color, and you automatically get your eyedropper tool, and then I would select it and select OK. Okay, it did not work because I did not have my layer selected. So make sure your layer is selected, click on the color, now click on that orange, and now it changed. So I did that over here. So if you were changing a shape or something, you wouldn't use the character tool because character is going to be for your font. But that is how you can use your eyedropper tool over here. Then you've got a spot cleaning brush. So say there was a little area on here that I might have forgotten to erase. You can just kind of spot clean that up a little bit. Sometimes it works great, sometimes not so much. See, there it worked pretty good. So it's getting rid of, it's kind of covering up what's around it in the background. And then this is your brush tool. So if you wanted to write things out, your eraser tool, pretty self-explanatory. You can use the brackets on your keyboard to make that brush larger or smaller. And then you've got your paint drop tool. So say I wanted this background to be black, I can just drop that right in there. Then your smudge tool, I don't use these a whole lot. But if you do use these, there's so many videos on YouTube. So, if you just YouTube how to use the pen tool Photoshop, you'll find a ton of videos. And I still do that to this day because there's just so much in Photoshop to learn. And here's your text tool. You've seen me use that. And it also gives you the option, if you kind of hold that menu down, you can type out vertically. So there's that option. And then that's really about it. So here's your color palette right here, just the colors that you're using. And it's really handy. This black and white square stays there. So if I just need to get black or white really quick, and I have different colors selected over here, just to give you an example. Okay, so I got these two colors over here. I need white, so I'm just going to select this icon. And now white is on the bottom, and the color that's on top is the color that you're going to use. So then I would use this arrow, and it swaps those two in place. So I use that tool a lot. It's very, very handy. All right, I think we're moving right along. Any questions on that so far? Do you see a comment? Okay.
No, but a lot of people are learning a lot of new things. One question, was the pumpkin file a PSD file or a PNG file?
Good question. So this is a PNG file. Everything that I'm pulling in today is on my website. So I'm going to show you how I pulled that in a second. But yes, this is a PNG file. So this file, it is what you get. So you can't change colors on it. And that's another thing about Photoshop. Photoshop allows you to change so much, but always be sure to go back to the designer's terms and conditions and see, like, do they allow you to change colors? Do they allow you to separate and move things? That's just always something to be aware of for sure.
And what is the font that your name is in?
That is a good question. It is Bright, and I got it off of Etsy. It's a cute font. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about our canvas size versus our image size. So to even get to that, you would go up here to image, and here's your image size and canvas size. So your canvas size is the area that you're working on. So a lot of times these are going to be the same. So right now it is 10 inches by 10 inches, meaning from here to here, it's 10 inches, and from there to the bottom, it's 10 inches. And then my image size here is the same. So these are helpful. They are interchangeable, but it's helpful. Let's say, actually, let's backtrack a second. I'll finish that thought in just 1 second. So when let's go to File, New. If you want to type in, a certain width or whatever, so maybe we'll do 8.5 by 11. Okay, so actually change my mind. Let's make this short. Okay, so this is now 8 inches. Let me drop white in there so you can see this. So say you have a design that is larger than 8 inches. For example, my monograms, I saved them to be about 10 inches. So if I were going to pull in one of my letters, so let's get the middle letter because it's always going to be the tallest, and I drop it in there, it's going to size it to that canvas. So the canvas, I think I set it to 8 inches. So it made it 8 inches. Now let's say I was going to pull in the left side of the monogram. And then we're going to pull in the right side of the monogram. So I point this out because it's unfortunate, because it's making the monogram the same size. you know, this is supposed to be a circle and this is not a circle. And the reason it did that is because this larger image that was where the design is larger than the canvas, it makes it that same size. So this is a good example where I would want to go to image canvas size, and I can make this larger. Make it 11 by 11. Okay, so now you see I changed my canvas size without changing my image size. So if I were to delete these and do that again, and you'll see that I dropped that white back here, and now I have that transparent background. You can just use your dropper tool and add white again. So let's do that again. So now I know that my canvas is now 11 inches from the top to bottom. So now when I pull in this middle letter, it's the correct size that I saved it at. And when I pull in the other sizes, you can see you're now getting that circle shape that you should get. So I couldn't pull that in because I didn't check that check mark. Okay, so there we go. So hopefully that makes sense. And now I don't have to try to resize everything because everything went in there the correct size since my canvas was larger. I'm gonna go, since we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and work on something else. So right now, all of these are their own separate layer. And when you're working with monograms, it's nice when they're all together. So before I get these grouped together, you can come over here to your layers and you can hold shift and select that bottom option. It selects all three of them. And then your alignment tools are going to pop up. And I like to make sure that the space between the letters are even. So you select this option. They didn't move because I have the snap tool, so I'll do that again. Oops. Lock that bottom layer. Okay, so here we go. So now it aligned everything. So these spaces are even, but obviously, you know, we like our monograms to be closer together. And then say this was kind of up here and down here. You can do the same thing with, I think it's this one. There we go. So it aligned them across. A lot of times I have to just click so the icons are kind of confusing. So I might have to do this a few times to figure out which one I was trying to get. But there you go. So back to grouping these together. I'm happy with the way this looks. I want these to be all on one layer. I've got all the layers selected. So I click the first one. I'm clicking the bottom one while I'm holding shift. Now I'm going to right click and I will select merge layers. So now it's all on one layer and I can easily move this around. You can pull this and drag it down. And there you have it. So let me see where I am. Any questions so far about all this?
Somebody had a question about when you rasterize a file, does it affect the quality or the resolution?
It's a good question. So I probably should have started all this out by saying I'm certainly not a pro in Photoshop. There's so much I don't know. I know how to do what I know how to do, but I do not believe so. It's just something about the placement. When you pull it in, it creates it as a smart object, I believe. So when you rasterize it, it just makes it sit in there. And Sprite, if you have a better answer for that, feel free to jump in.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, it shouldn't affect the image quality. It just changes it from math to pixels, so it should be fine. Somebody said that they like to use inches instead of pixels. How can you change that on your toolbar?
It's a good question. I believe you can go. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. It's gotta be in one of these settings. And if I wasn't on camera, I'd probably be able to find it. But I know that you can change that whenever you create a new option. like a new folder, because I work in inches most of the time too. So here's your drop down to go from inches to pixels. Okay, so all right, moving right along. So say I was ready to print this. I don't have a printer that can print 12 by 12 or 11 by 11, I think is what I made this. Yeah. So we need to size all of this down. So what I can do is use what we call marching ants. There's a bunch of ways to do this to size down and get things ready to print. I like using marching ants. So what that is, you'll hold Command on a Mac or Control on a PC, and then you'll come over to your layers, and you can see that box is coming up where my mouse is, my finger. So you have to be on the actual layer and not over here. So we'll select that, and I clicked, and then now you can see, let's see, got hold of mouse though. So you can see those things, or those dots or dashes are moving. So we just call those marching ants. So that A, or this monogram, everything on this layer is selected. So what we can do now is go to Image and select Crop. And it crops everything down perfectly around that A. Okay, so say, I'm not sure what size this is now, so you could then go to Image, Image Size, and then, I don't know, let's say we want to print this on, I don't know, it's just something smaller. So I want it to be 5 inches. So I just changed my width to 5, and I'll select OK. And now it's dropped this to be 5 inches. So that is your marching ants. If you didn't want to use marching ants, so I'm just hitting Control Z on my keyboard to undo. You could always use your square marquee and try to get this as close as you can, but then you end up kind of getting close right here. It looks like I just barely made it. So I could crop this and be fine, but then, the sides aren't perfect, so your design's not gonna be right in the center. So that's why I like the marching ants. So again, that was Command or Control on your keyboard. You get that square around your mouse, you hit the layer, and then you can go to Image, Crop. All right, so that is that. We are now on page 2. Okay, so another great thing about Photoshop is the shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts. So set these up to work for you because, again, time is money. So to do that, we're going to go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. Let's see if I can make this bigger. All right, so these right here is everything that's right here. So if I'm looking for File, Save As, and I want to change that shortcut, normally I would go to File, Save As. So that's where I'm going to go here. File, and then I'm going to look for Save As. Now I have already changed this. In Photoshop, I use Save as a copy more. So I wanted to make that easy. So I made that Control or Command, but this would be Control N. So I changed that. You might I use Edit, Paste, and Place a lot. So I went to Edit, Paste Special, Paste in Place. And so your copy is Control Z or Control Z. I said it again, Control C, the letter C for copy. And then paste is normally Control V. So I made Paste in Place my Control V because when I pasted, it was pasting it all over the place and I wanted it right in that same spot. So I've changed that. I use Merge a lot. I use Clipping Mask a lot. So I just went in through all of these and changed them to something easy I can do with just one finger, so I can keep my hand on my mouse and my fingers on my keyboard and not have to waste the time to go up here to these menus. So that's going to look different for everybody. Just make it work for you because the availability is there. And I also really love being able to zoom. So very easy and convenient. So to do this, you will hold Option on a Mac, or on a PC, it's Alt, and then you just scroll the whatever this thing, the wheel on your mouse, and it just scrolls right in. So it's super quick. If you just got a quick fix, you just do that. And that's not something you have to set up. That's an automatic shortcut that Photoshop has for you. Okie doke. So, any questions about that so far?
How do you zoom in and out of your canvas quickly, as you've been doing?
Okay, so I think I just answered that. On a PC, it'll be Alt and then the wheel on your mouse. And then on a Mac, I'm holding Option. So yeah, it's very handy.
And do you have handouts for this class?
I don't. I did not even think to do that, but I could probably type this out if that's something that's available, could be available later.
Yeah. If you just email it to me, that'd be great.
Cool. Good deal. I'm glad this is helpful. I know it's a lot of information. It's a lot. That's why I had to write it down. So I said I knew I was going to forget stuff. Okay, so I'm going to add in a digital paper. With blanks from Condi, we use digital papers a lot. So what I'm going to do and how I drag most of my stuff in, which I showed you earlier, I have everything saved on an external hard drive. I've just got it on my desktop right now for making things easy. I just drag it and I'm holding it and I drop it in this bar up here and I drop it. And then it opens it for me. And it opens it to the correct size that this paper is at. So this is what I saved it at when I was designing. And when you drag and drop and it opens its own canvas, it opens it at the correct size. So now let's say I wanted to, we're gonna add a name again. Probably shouldn't keep using my own name, but it works. Okay, and I want to change this to be, see, I didn't hit that check mark. We'll make this black. Okay, so this doesn't look great because the Tori kind of blends in with the black back here. The ways we can make it better. And to do that, we can use our blending options. So to do that, we will right click over here on the layers and we'll select blending options. So here's a whole nother menu of fun things we can do to our designs. So we'll go over a few of them. Stroke is what a lot of people like to use. So if I want to turn that on, you can see it added, like, there we go. It added that stroke around it. And now if I wanted to change the stroke, because obviously this doesn't look good, you would then select stroke and it brings up that menu. So I want my color, we'll make it white. And then the position of the stroke, you can make it go on the outside of your letters. So there's me turning it on and off. So it's on the outside, you can do it on the inside, which is what it was before. And then you can do it center. So it's half outside, half inside. For this sake, I would keep it on outside. And you can play with the opacity. You can play with the size of that stroke. I should move this down so you can see. You can play with the color. So if you didn't want white, you can use a different color. If I wanted to select, a color out here, I could use that. It doesn't look like the normal eyedropper tool, but it works the same. So there's your options for that. Let me move this back over. There we go. Okay, so then you could move that. You can add inner glow, inner shadow. A lot of people like to do a drop shadow. So again, if you just click that check mark, it just adds it, but it doesn't give you your menu. So you have to actually click on drop shadow before you actually get your menu to add all your options. So again, you can change your opacity. You can change the angle of where you want that shadow to. If your light source is up here, you can change the difference from the letter, the spread of it. So it's kind of more faded here, the size, all sorts of things, how you want it to look. So that is popular. And then the outer glow. So this is kind of like the stroke, but you can get some different techniques from it. So I'm adding that noise, so it's making it kind of scratchy looking. So many options, but that is how you can add, you know, different things around your text or really anything. You just go to that right click and select blending options, and that's where you get all of that. Okay, and obviously layers in Photoshop are everything. So sometimes, you know, your layers might get unorganized and you might lose things. Just be sure to look on your layers. So let me just drag something else in. So see right now, I just dragged that in and I can't see it. It's like, oh, okay, that's probably because this top layer is what is on top. So if I want this pumpkin on top, I need to drag it on top. So sometimes just saying things out loud helps it make sense. So there's that. And oh no, where'd Tori go? I wanted that in the center. Oh, it's on the bottom. Let me drag it on top of the layers. Okay, there we go. Now, guys, I know this is not great. This is purely example. Okay, so that is layers. Okay, so I'm getting close to being done. Are there any questions up to this point?
A lot of people just saying they're gonna have to rewatch it so they can slow down and pause it.
Yes.
You'll see you answered a lot of these.
Perfect.
Somebody asked RGB or CMYK for sub, and you always want to design in RGB, and then your printer is, of course, going to be a CMYK printer. So somebody has Photoshop Elements 10. Is that going to work with your instructions?
For the most part, yes. Photoshop Elements is the student version, and it is a one-time fee. So I think you just pay $99 for Photoshop Elements, but it is a more simpler version of all this. So I started out in Photoshop Elements, and I could have continued using it, but I started upgrading and doing different things with whatever, so it just made sense. But you can do, if you're not a designer, and you just make things, like put things together that you buy off Etsy to print, to put on sublimation blanks, Photoshop Elements would be perfectly fine. So yeah, most of this, they should be pretty interchangeable. You're just not going to have, I don't think you have all this stuff. Most of it you're going to have, but it's just not everything. So I do think Photoshop Elements is definitely a good option for sure. And you can, it is a one-time fee, so you can't really try it and get your money back. But if you could try Photoshop, this Photoshop paid, you know, 2 months and $10 a month, and you're just like, this might be a little too much for me, then you could go down to Photoshop Elements, and I think you would be perfectly fine. Like I said, I used Photoshop Elements probably for a solid year before I updated. Okay, so I did want to do a really quick rundown of how to use smart objects. So a lot of us like to use mockups, and I really love, let me move this over here. She does not know I'm doing this. She doesn't even know who I am, but styled product mockups. Her mockups are fabulous, and they're all smart objects. So what I mean by smart object is, so I'm going to open up her 20-ounce tumbler mockup. And when you get it, let me duplicate this. So I want to duplicate this. So I'm going to go to Image, Duplicate. And it's asking me, do you want to duplicate this? And I say, okay. So when you first get this, this is all gone. Sorry, don't pay attention to what I'm doing right now. Where'd it go? Okay, so when you first download her mockups, they look like this. They're plain. You want to add all of your other stuff. So a smart object allows you to make it look realistic. So she goes in and she plots all these points. So all that you have to do, she says over here, click icon to something that I can't read. Click icon to add art. So you're going to click this, and it takes you to another entire different canvas area. So I'm going to add in that pencil. Oh no, I lost it. That's right. So you would just drop that right in there, and then you could add your name. And I'm getting close to being out of time, so I'm going to do this quick. Okay, so again, doesn't look great, but just doing it so you get the point. So I'm happy with how I want this to look. So I'm going to hit Control S or Command S or Control S just to save this. And it's going to save it over here. Super cool. So now it looks like it's actually going to look, for the most part, on a tumbler. So that is what a smart object is. If you weren't happy with this, so say you wanted this to be smaller or something, select your check mark, hit Control or Command S to save. Then you'll go back to that first open layer, and now it's small again. So it's just a really great way to make things look more alive, like they will in real life, because I know a lot of times customers like to see real life pictures, and it's not feasible to make real products of all that we sell. So this is a really easy way to get as close as possible and just to make things look good. So these are called smart objects and styled product mock-ups online on Etsy. She sells a ton of them. She keeps up with the fads, and she's just really great. And then you can even come in here and play with a lot of things. So she's got different lids, so different straws. So you really could make it as realistic as what you're selling as possible. And then you can add your own background if you wanted to. So yeah, and I think that's really about it. If you were happy with something, I'm sure most of you know, but you would just go to Print, File, Print, and then here you can change all your settings. Make sure if you have a MacBook that you have the driver installed correctly. So that way you get all the different RGB, different options. And then you just hit Print. So yeah, that's really the gist. That was a lot of information, I know, but hopefully it was helpful. And with the time remaining, I'll take random questions.
What's the name of the lady with the mock-ups?
Good question. It is Styled Product Mock-ups.
Styled
on Etsy.
Styled Product Mock-ups on Etsy. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of people asking about the replays. They'll be available on the app for 3 months. And then after that, we will release them to our YouTube page probably in a couple of weeks. So yeah. Let's see if I have any newer questions. Nope. Newest. So what if you don't use a mouse?
Oh gosh, I do not know. I know a lot of people use their trackpad, and they can do amazing things with their trackpad. So if you have that, it is possible. There's probably just a learning curve, but some people don't like having a mouse. I don't know how to not do this stuff with the mouse, but there is a way. You can get a trackpad, and it'll just probably have to set up the different notations in your MacBook or whatever you're using to say, hey, this, 3 fingers is going to mean this, just to help you out a little bit. But I would suggest getting a mouse personally.
Yeah. Well, you've had over 400 people watch you. So, and everybody has loved it. So thank you very much, Tori. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you everybody for watching. And I guess I will see everybody in a few minutes. So
awesome.
bye.
Thank you guys.